Welcome back to the County News Podcast. I'm Charlie Bann. This year, NACo and counties across the country are focusing on storytelling. We're using memorable narratives to help residents understand the responsibilities and challenges the counties face. But we're also showing how changes on the federal, state, and local levels can help improve service delivery and responsiveness, adding up to more effective and efficient county government. Today, we're talking to Jeff Van Wagenen and Pep Fernandez from Riverside County, California, about the Board Brief, the county's weekly video update from the Board of Supervisors. They've brought an engaging style to delivering news from the board that's clocking a steady increase in weekly views. They'll share some of their insights into what helps connect them with viewers. We'll also hear from Wise County, Texas Judge J.D. Clark, NACo's president, who is driving the County Storytellers spotlight. His storytelling symposium last month introduced some fascinating voices into the discussion to help county officials think about their creative skills. Now here, Riverside County CEO Jeff Van Wagenen and Pep Fernandez, a member of the county's communications team. So Riverside County CEO Jeff Van Wagenen and Pep Fernandez from Riverside County, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, we're glad to be here.
Thank you, Charlie.
One reason I'm excited to talk to you guys is that NACo's theme this year is county storytelling. And when I heard about what you're doing with your board briefs in Riverside County, I thought this is just the kind of thing we should feature on our podcast. Who wants to read written words about somebody's voice when you can actually hear it in person like this? So I'd like to thank you two for taking the time on this. But tell me about the board brief, how you got started with that, and how you wound up doing what you're doing right now.
Well, it's funny. Your excitement about it is really what got us excited about it in the first place. We know that every item that comes before our Board of Supervisors, and I imagine every other Board of Supervisors and every other county, is important and meaningful work, but it can be dry, especially to the uninitiated. And we wanted to make sure that we were able to really try and communicate the work of the county government to the folks we're doing the work on behalf of. And so we really thought, how do we get this message to where the folks are paying attention in such a way that they can really have it resonate with them? And so the short version of it is it kind of started as if we could do a sports center type vibe after the board meeting. And that's really the idea we did. And it stemmed from our work during COVID to do regular stand-up updates for the community. And then it evolved into this board brief aspect of it.
Tell me a little bit about Riverside County's media environment in terms of newspapers, TV. Where are a lot of your residents getting their news, and how much county news is being picked up in those media outlets?
Well, one of the great strengths of Riverside County is our size and diversity. So for your listeners, just by way of context, Riverside County is 7,300 square miles, and we have 2.5 million residents who live here. And so on our western border, think Los Angeles County. On our eastern border, think Arizona. And south of us is San Diego. So when you ask where do folks get their messaging from, it really depends. In the western part of our county, we're in the LA and Orange County market. So those are really the LA stories drive. In the eastern part of our county, primarily in the Coachella Valley, think Palm Springs, Coachella, that area. They have all their own TV networks and their own newspapers. So we have certainly local newspapers and as many places around the country. The print media is a tough environment for folks to work in now. But we have certainly television media in the Coachella Valley. And so a lot of our messaging ends up being digital and social media.
But also very fragmented as a result of being part of those different media markets, I imagine.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to break through the noise to really get the stories told.
But I imagine it takes a good voice to break through that noise. How did you identify Pep as the voice to deliver this news?
Well, I will introduce that and then get out of the way so that you can actually hear that voice. But I was lucky enough to meet Pep in one of the different roles he had before coming to the county. Pep in the Inland Empire, which is what we call Riverside and San Bernardino counties combined, Pep is quite literally a sports legend in this community. Pep started, I think, as a print journalist, but on the radio, on TV, he is a college sports announcer and literally is the man with a camera and a microphone everywhere. And I used to see him basically doing a one-man show 24/7. So I was able to convince him to come join the county and then got out of his way so he could do the same sort of work for us, among other things. So Pep, I don't know if you want to talk about your story.
Yeah. Hey, Charlie. Yeah, so I was in local television news for a long time, and also as a sports broadcaster, like a play-by-play guy. And it's fun, it's rewarding. I've met a lot of amazing individuals. I've been to some fantastic places, but it's demanding in terms of your personal life. I mean, my normal schedule in TV news was 1 p.m. till at least midnight or after. And a lot of weekends and the play-by-play stuff, I did a lot of traveling, and it just wasn't really conducive to being happily married with kids, right? So I had known Jeff in the local sports scene, and I think it was 2019. I'm like, hey Jeff, I'm entertaining the idea of pushing back on the sports and getting a more 9 to 5 job, stability, being at home at dinner time, which was a crazy thought at the time. So yeah, so it worked out great, and I've loved it. I've been here now going on 6.5 years with Riverside County.
Now, the dirty little secret, of course, though, is I'm not exactly sure Pep slowed down, right? His 9 to 5 county job starts earlier than 9 most days and definitely lasts longer than 5 on a lot of days. And he still is the voice of some local sports teams here in the community. So you can take the sportscaster out of the sports, but not the sports out of the sportscaster.
That's an interesting transition too, because you're going from delivering news and commentary on a field of entertainment, and now you've transitioned to doing so on behalf of a government organization where your people might not be looking for a good time when they hear your voice, but you're able to coat that with your approach to delivering the news. How have you made that transition from sports to government and what from your first life have you brought to this new career in terms of making news more exciting and palatable?
Well, Charlie, at least for me, I was kind of a novice to the world of government. So when I first got here, I was learning a lot of things for the first time, and I figured, well, if I'm learning it for the first time, I'm sure there's people out in the public or constituents that are learning it for the first time too. So a lot of the messaging, the videos we produced, and especially the board brief, which I'm sure we'll talk about, I just tried to deliver it in a way that's going to be easy to consume and understandable. Half the time I was trying to just understand it myself. Getting the information accurate was like my biggest thing. If I could, bring some liveliness to it and some energy, that was just bonus. I just wanted to make sure the information was correct that we were putting out there. And kudos to the team behind the scenes who do a lot of prep work to make sure that information is accurate for our residents. I kind of had the easy part, but for me, it was just getting the information correct and learning it for the first time. All these different programs and grants, and the county offers this, and we have this service. A lot of that stuff I was learning for the first time too, and I felt it was valuable that our residents know about it as well. So I just felt like I was a way to relay it to them in a fashion that they could understand it as well, because I was trying to understand it the same way they were.
And Pep nailed it. One of the keys for us was making sure that the folks telling the story for the county were not necessarily the subject matter experts necessarily, right? We wanted that the message to be communicated in such a way as everybody can understand it. One of my old careers before this one was as a trial attorney. And a lot of what trial attorneys try and do is, all right, what is the compelling story that I can tell to make sometimes confusing information really part of a narrative that gets to the result where you want to be? And so that's really one of the strengths, is the ability to have Pep, like you said, there's other folks behind the scenes that we'll talk about as well. But Pep really, when he's asking the questions, he is in the shoes of our constituents, of our viewers, that he's asking the questions that they'd be asking. He's providing the information that they need to know. And it's really been, it's helpful. It's funny. The first iteration of the board brief was really like a 2-shot with Pep interviewing subject matter experts and a landscape style perspective. And it would last probably about 10 to 15 minutes. And as much fun as we had watching it, it didn't really get much buzz or generate much engagement with the community, because we were taking a 3, 4, 5 hour board meeting, turning it into a 10, 11, 12 minute board meeting brief, and it was still too long. So we have evolved from the early days into what it is now.
What you mentioned about just translating ideas, it brings me back to high school math. Show your work and let me know how you got there. We'll see where you went wrong. So I appreciate that thought process. What brought you down to, it's about 30, 60 seconds, 90 seconds?
90 seconds is where we are now, and it was what we felt, kind of really studying social media generally, and really the Reels style format is what generates the interest and keeps it for long enough that folks get enough and aren't jumping right away. And oddly enough, one of the funny developments that we created for this one was putting that little ticker in the corner of our board brief that is the 90-second clock winding down, because that also gives the viewer, all right, how long do I have to sit through this thing? And seeing that clock wind down, as crazy as it may sound, has really generated greater interest and having folks keep on the reel longer. And they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. We're now seeing other local entities use that timer. In fact, we've seen the White House now adopt that timer on some of their social media posts. So it's just sort of like, hey, I'm not asking you to spend a lot of time. Just give me 90 seconds and we'll give you what you need to know today.
You also complement it with some pretty compelling visual footage. I imagine you're getting quite a bit of mileage out of a drone, given all the overhead shots I've seen, but it really complements what Pep's talking about.
Well, and along those lines, there's really obviously a process. For 90 seconds, it's, as you know, and hopefully some of the folks listening to this, but for those that don't, it's many hours to try and get those 90 seconds just right. So we actually begin the process the week before we film, trying to identify what items on the next week's agenda really are the right topics that we want to cover. We certainly want to cover the important topics. We don't shy away from any topics. But if our goal, our mission is to improve the quality of life of all those we serve, we really want to highlight those types of items that show the work, to your point. So we start with our team in the executive office. For us, that's Brooke Federico and Melody Hendrickson, to really try and review the agenda, highlight 5, 6, 7 potential stories, and then Brooke and Melody work with our county departments to get a little bit more information and start to edit down that number to maybe 4 or 5 stories. And then we start working on a script that we can give Pep on Tuesday. But while we are identifying those stories, we're also looking for the B-roll. We're reaching out to the departments, to the subject matter experts. Do they have photos that illustrate and drive the point home? Do they have video? If not, can we get the team, either in the executive office or Pep's Rivco TV team, to get out and shoot some video so that we have that compelling image? Because we know as great as Pep's voice is and his style, 90 seconds of him is a lot of time. And so if we can break it up with the images, that also helps drive the point home. And then we're really lucky, too, here at the county. We have a graphics expert and a creative mind around editing, a guy named Javier Santos, who is just super duper talented. And so after the pre-production is done, after or sometimes during our board meeting, we get Pep in front of our green screen, shoot it, and then we turn the whole package over to Javier, and he takes a couple of hours so that we can make sure and get the product out before 5 o'clock the day of the board meeting.
So I imagine in your role, you spend a lot of time in the details, in the weeds and some things. Has watching any of these board briefs kind of changed the way you think about an issue just because you see it in this brief light and, stripped down to its essentials?
Absolutely. You say I spend a lot of time in the weeds, and I certainly do. And some folks think I may spend too much time in their weeds, but that's the nature of these jobs of ours. But yeah, I think of every item that goes to the board really as its own standalone media press release. And now when we're trying to just boil it down to the 30 seconds that really gets to the crux of it, it's almost as if each one of these is the elevator pitch, for lack of a better term, of the work that we're doing in this particular area.
I'd say, Pep, what are some of the more interesting and compelling stories you've told in this format in the last year or so?
For me, a lot of them have to do with like transportation, because the Inland Empire, as Jeff pointed out, is Riverside and San Bernardino counties, and Riverside is massive, and we travel a lot on a lot of these major arteries that go from east to west and even north to south, but really east to west. And I always get a kick out of the transportation updates, whether it's expanding highways or roads that are significant passages from one side to the other. So whether they're adding a lane or they're adding lighting or lights. I always appreciate that, again, like a constituent. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. That's going to help my drive and get me there, more safely and more efficiently. So at least for me, I mean, I could throw out some street names or highways. It might not mean a lot to the listeners, but yeah, those I really enjoy the most. And also too, the grants, a lot of the money that Riverside County is able to bring in to support these programs and the services that we offer. It's really eye-opening, all the things that Riverside County does, and a lot of the funding behind it. It's interesting to see where it comes from, like homelessness and the housing situation here in the county of Riverside. So those are just a couple of things. But like Jeff pointed out, this is a snapshot of a lot of the different items you're going to find on the board agenda. So for every week, every board brief, we're hitting at least 3 or 4 different items. So if you do that over a couple of years, I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things here in the county of Riverside.
You mentioned the format's changed a little over the years. You've gone from 10 or 15 minutes down to 90 seconds. What kind of feedback have you gotten from viewers as you've made these changes and these evolutions?
Well, first and foremost, what we saw was an increase in the number of views. And that is the most immediate type of feedback. We're now every week in the 7 to 10,000 views at minimum. And maybe part of that is, at least on Instagram, the cover picture we do is Pep in all sorts of different poses. So maybe people are generating that. Let's go see what Pep's up to today.
It gets the people going.
Yeah. And but the other part is sometimes we will hear actually folks who are speaking in public at the dais at a board meeting reference a previous board brief, or we'll hear out in the community say, hey, I saw that, and similar to what Pep was saying, I didn't know that we got $3 million from the federal government for this housing project. Wow, that's really neat. That's great. And then one other piece of feedback that we're seeing is our board members themselves are pushing out the messages. They are reposting it, talking about it, putting links in their various newsletters and across their social media platforms. And so the fact that they think that there's value for their respective constituents, I think, is proof of the concept.
Any other plans for what you're going to do with it, or are you pretty happy with the format right now?
Well, we will never be completely happy. We are constantly tinkering to try and get there. I will tell you, one of the things that we piloted maybe a year and a half ago that I really liked was we would do Pep's board brief to cover those stories in the quick hits. And then over the course of the next couple of days, we might do another 90 seconds on one story, and then have different stories carry on. And that was very popular. That one was more of a format where we could get some of the subject matter experts talking. The challenge with that, quite simply, is bandwidth and capacity. We have, like I said, Pep, this isn't Pep's job. It is part of his job. In some ways, it's the traditional other duties as assigned. But so if I were to choose one, and I'll kick it over to Pep, if I were to choose one, I'm so happy with it. I would like to do a 90-second quick hit every day, following the board brief, just a deeper dive on some other stories. But it's just a bandwidth issue for us, at least currently.
Just to piggyback off what Jeff was saying, at the origins of the board brief, Jeff sitting here, we have Brooke, our county PIO, as well. And, when we first started, you're right, we were doing these public health updates during COVID, and we first started the board brief. It was live. I mean, every day it was live. The interviews were live. I was live. Everything was live. And we did it in the board chambers, and it was fun. I mean, it was a little chaotic, but it was fun, that rush of doing that live shows. It was appointment viewing. People knew every Tuesday, 4 p.m., we're going to break down what happened during the board meeting. But if you look at the version now, and so many people spending their time on social media, we can give them a nice, polished 90-second version of that. Now, I missed the live part of it because that's my background in broadcasting, but it looks, and I'm going to mention Javier again on Jeff's team here at the executive office. He does such a great job with the effects and the transitions and the graphics. It's a very nice, polished, 90-second package of what went down during the meeting. So I'm very happy with the version now, although I do miss the live aspect a little bit of it, because that's just kind of my background.
You heard Pep is on the county team. right? Our producer of it, I mentioned Melody Hendrickson's name. She's, in essence, I'd call probably the line producer, segment producer of these things. She's on the county team. Javier, our graphics editor, wizard, he's on the county team. I think that's important to note because you've got talent working in all these different municipal organizations, some of which you don't even know exist. And it's just really throwing out the ideas and at least in my role and my job as the CEO, oftentimes just getting out of the way. So one of the things that we're very proud of is that it is in-house. It is our team doing the work. We are not paying outside vendors. And for what it's worth, your viewers can't see it, but I'm holding up some of the Emmys we get for our work. I mean,
Wow.
we have actually been recognized for our efforts and get a lot of kudos. In-house team doing good people doing good work. And so I would encourage folks, before you automatically jump to an outside vendor or an outside partner, really look and see what kind of skills you got in-house.
Two questions, one question for each of you. Jeff, who's your favorite trial lawyer from a TV show or a movie? And Pep, who's your favorite broadcaster?
Look, that is a really tough question for me because I've named my English Bulldogs after trial lawyers. So my most recent, I'll do it that way because I don't want to say I have a favorite dog, but my most recent favorite fictional TV trial lawyer is Perry Mason. So my dog Mason was named after Perry.
And Pep, who's your favorite broadcaster?
You know what? Because there's different facets of sports broadcasting, and I still do play-by-play stuff, although I consider myself more of a sports anchor than a sports play-by-play guy. So I'm going to go back to Rich Eisen because we actually worked at the same TV station, not the same time, but he went a couple years before me, and I've always looked up to him, and I appreciate what he's doing in the simulcast, whether it's TV and radio, and he does play-by-play too, so he does a little bit of everything. So I've always kind of looked up to him because we obviously ended up in different places, but we kind of took that same path, at least through the small market station, up in Northern California at the time.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, and I hope we can bring some more views to Rivco's board brief.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think this is a great series, the Storytellers for the county government, and we're really proud here in Riverside County of our Storytellers. So thank you for giving me the chance to brag on it a little bit.
Now here's J.D. Clark, NACo's president and judge of the Wise County, Texas Commissioners Court. We spoke during a NACo meeting in January. President Clark, why did you choose County Storytellers as your theme for your presidency?
One of our primary focuses for NACo as an association is to do federal advocacy on behalf of counties and push for those important county priorities here in D.C. And to do that, we have to be effective, impactful storytellers. Our executive director, Matt Chase, has said before, the data makes us credible, but the stories make us memorable. And NACo equips us with such great data, such great statistics and research, but we have to marry those with our great stories from the ground, whether they're exciting stories, whether they're inspiring stories, whether they're sad stories. We have to carry those county stories to make an impact with our policymakers so that they get the real impression of what we're dealing with, the work we're doing, and so that they remember us.
What are some examples of great storytelling you've seen in your time as a county official?
I think what impresses me so often is county officials are almost just by nature, whether they realize it or not, they're storytellers. And the storytelling is something that all of us can do and should do, and most of us probably already are and don't even realize it. But if you're a small county with very limited resources, you can still tell a story. If you're a large county with a lot of resources available to you, you can still tell a story. And it's just one of the basic human connection pieces throughout time, throughout history. And as county leaders, we have to harness that to do good work for our communities.
Have you noticed any particularly effective storytelling methods or mechanisms that have helped break through the glut of news out there?
At my fall board meeting in December, part of that was a storytelling symposium for the county officials that attended that. And the point of that was to bring in some non-elected official, non-county government storytellers. We brought in a historian and author, S.C. Gwynn. We brought in a singer-songwriter, Drew Kennedy. And while the stories they're telling are not county government. The tools and processes they shared with us are very helpful. Find your character. Don't just rattle stats. Don't just rattle data at somebody. Who's your character? And even though we deal with things chronologically, can we tell that in a more impactful way when we tell that story? And that comes down to the editing, the sequencing, and also using economy of words. We don't have a whole lot of times when we meet with agencies, when we meet with some of our federal reps. So we need to have our story distilled in an impactful way where we have used economy of words, but chosen the most powerful way to tell that story. And I think hearing from them, from a songwriter who's got 3 minutes to impact us emotionally, to a historian who has to take what could be a lot of dry facts and structure it in a way that emotionally resonates with us, I think there were a lot of lessons for us as county storytellers.
Thanks for joining us for the County News Podcast. You can read more county stories at naco.org/news.